Saturday evening. It's January the 16th. Thought I would do a video about my preparations for the spring garden. Yes, it is the middle of January, but there are a lot of things that you can do to prepare to have your garden be successful this summer. And there's no time like the present, because right now there's not a lot of activity outside. Everything's gone to sleep. Everything is dormant. The ground is frozen solid. So there's really nothing that you can do outside. But what can you do inside? Well, let's have a look. Preparing for gardening starts early. It starts in January, really. It starts before January. It kind of starts basically when you're coming to the end of your growing season. You're learning what worked for you, what didn't work for you, you're learning the patterns of the sunlight, the heat, different times of the day, your placement of what you grew. You're starting to understand the tools that you're using, the ones you like, the ones you don't, the ones you wish you had or would like to try. So that's really when it all starts. But kicking off the garden season really happens for me right after the holidays. I start thinking and planning, and I just want to get organized and get ready. So the first thing that I do is I organize all of my seeds. It's not as big of a project anymore for me because I got organized a few years ago, and now it's just a matter of going through my organization and determining what's still viable. Most things really still are, and also determining what I need to get because I'm short on it. So this is my system. I have my seeds in marked containers based on what they are. And yeah, I use different kinds of containers. It doesn't really matter as long as it doesn't hold moisture and you can keep pests out of it. Mice love to eat seeds right in their packets. And I made the mistake of storing my seeds out in the chicken coop one year, and I had a lot of seeds get eaten. So I don't do that anymore. Now I keep them in my storage room, and I keep them in containers that mice don't tend to eat from. And as you can see, like, these are all of my beans. I've got my dragon's tongue, and I'm trying a new kind of bean this year. It's called the Runner Bean Mountaineer White. And it's supposed to be really a good bean to grow, tastes really good, grows really well. So we're going to give that one a try. I also keep some that I've held over from other plants. Like, this is last season's tomatoes that I really liked, and so I've got them in here staying nice and dry. Yeah, you can use whatever container you want, but definitely organize your seeds. One of the reasons that I like to organize my seeds is I know what I got and I know what I don't have. And that's important this time of year, because if you're going to be ordering seeds and have any expectation of getting what you need to do it now. People are buying up seeds like crazy right now, and you may still not get what you want. But there's a bunch of different seed sites. I like Territorial Seed, Baker Creek Seed. There's a seed sharing site, or I think it's called Seed Savers. Mary's Heirloom Seeds. There's just a ton of seed companies out there, but you want to know what it is you're looking for and just check them all. You're going to want to find non-GMO seeds so that you know that whatever you grow, you can seed save from your own plants for the following year, so you don't have to scramble for seeds the following year, especially if it's a plant that you really liked. If it's been genetically modified, then it may not produce true to the plant that it grew from. It may not even produce at all. So get the non-GMO. If you can get heirloom seeds, more the better, and organic seeds. And try to look for what region these particular seeds do really well in. We are in region 6B. Now on your list, you're going to want to include the things that your family actually eats. If there's certain varieties of things, like your family likes string beans, but maybe they don't like other kinds of beans, so maybe don't include those. and just have the string beans. Determinate and non-determinate tomatoes, maybe you don't have room for a lot of bushy tomato plants, so you're going to get the varieties that climb, and that takes up a lot less space and you get a lot of production out of those. They do take more work than the bushing tomatoes, but they're worth it. You're going to also want to consider how much space you have. Do you have room enough to grow a lot of different kinds of vegetables? Does it make a lot of sense to have a lot of seeds or to plant a huge garden when you don't have the space? Maybe you just have pots or planters that you grow in. So give that some consideration. Your level of experience in planting things, growing things. Some plants take a lot more experience, a lot more work, a lot more patience, and others just seem to just do really well being ignored for the most part. But yeah, get organized with your seeds. The next thing that I try to do is I try to plan my garden. I draw it out on paper. This is the side garden, which just means it's the garden on the side of my property, not right in the middle of the back, and it's not in the front. And I divide each area into about how much space it is. I'm not real scientific with it. I just kind of know how much space I have. And so I decide this end I'm going to grow this, and in the middle I'm going to grow this, and off to the side I'm going to grow that. And so then I just kind of organize that into that garden. And then this year I'm going to be going a little bit different than I have in years past, mainly because of what's going on around the world. Food security is an issue. So I'm going to be trying to grow sunflowers and climbing beans all along all of my fences and around the outside perimeters on at least one side of my gardens. I'm going to try to really produce as many sunflowers and beans as I possibly can. I'm also going to be moving my peppers and my tomatoes into a high tunnel so that they're protected from that hot afternoon sun that we get. They're still going to get plenty of sunlight. I'm going to make sure of that, but they are going to be somewhat shaded when it gets really hot. There'll still be ventilation, and this is an experiment. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a try. And so the area where I was growing the tomatoes and the peppers, I'm going to have room for other things. So I plan for that. I never plant every kind of seed that I have. There's always, like last year, I didn't try any broccoli or cauliflower or any of that kind of stuff. I might try that this year. But you're also going to have some succession planting that you're going to be able to do. So in your garden plan, have a succession plan where you have, well, this is early spring planting. And then as those things produce, like for instance, radishes and peas produce pretty early, you can get them out of the way, or you can replant them depending on how much you use them. And then you can use the spot that they were in for something else that does well in the later part of the season or in the middle of the season. And so plan that as well. Don't try to put everything in the ground at once, because not everything is going to do well early in the spring. It's too cold and it'll go slower, and then when it does start to produce, it's the super hot part of the summer, at least for us, and it may not produce at all or only a little, or it may stunt it. And so when it does start to produce, it's in the fall, and you may not have enough growing season, or some of the plants may not have survived to produce. So look at when they do best, what time of the year they do best to plant, and plan that in your succession schedule. I know that sounds a little bit complicated, but it's really not that complicated. And as the year goes on, I'll cover that in some videos. Something else that I'm doing this year is I'm starting seeds a little earlier in the season, mainly because we're not having a very bad winter, which means we may have an earlier spring. And even if we don't, I have a plan for that. But if we do have an early spring, I want to have plants that are ready to go in the ground. And that's going to mean starting them earlier. And so I've got set up in here, this is my office. Finally got all of my wedding business stuff moved out of here and into a storage room so that I can use this room for other things along with my business. So I have set up some shelving units that I got. I'm going to show those to you. Sorry, cat, didn't mean to terrify you. Cats are running around like crazy playing. But I've set up these shelving units, and I'm going to be hanging some shop lights, just your basic old shop lights, over the seed trays that I have set in place. They're not seeded yet. Don't even have any soil in them. But that's where I'm going to start my seeds. Keep them under shop lights in front of a window that it's not direct sunlight, so that's why I need the shop lights. But it'll get some sunlight. I picked up some growing trays. But I make do with things I can get at the dollar store as much as possible. So I've got these, and they're basically like they're cookie sheet kind of thing. And then some baking pans. I'm going to punch holes all through the bottom so that they drain and that the water is caught in the baking or the cookie sheet. And so I can bottom water rather than top water, which helps cut down on waterloggedness and mold, things like that. But I also have these seed pots that are also for bottom watering, as you can see. So it's all set to get growing. Got a lot of my supplies organized, all the markers and things to tie plants with. Markers from last year marking the plants, and then I got a bunch of new ones at the dollar store. There were 10 of them in each package, so 10 for $1. I got a bunch of those, so I'm pretty well set. That's one of the things that you can do in January to prepare for spring. So I'll see if there was anything else I wanted to add to this. I don't think there was just yet, but if there is, I'll tack it onto the end. Otherwise, I'm going to do a video once I've got all my seeds in, ready to go in. I'll go through that process of how I get them set up and give them the best start. So there you go. So in the back of the seed packet, you'll see that it gives you the days to germination. That's how long it takes for the seed to begin to sprout and come up. The depth to sow it, so that's how deeply you're going to want to plant the seed. Seed spacing, it's just how far apart the plants should be, so that'll help you to plan the area this particular plant is going to take up, this particular planting. The row spacing, so when you've got your rows, your lines of plantings, how far apart you need those rows to be, because you're going to have roots spread out, you're going to have plant take up space. And then the days to harvest is once the seed has germinated till when you can start expecting to harvest from that plant. Gives you all these instructions about where it grows best, when or if to thin out the seedlings, because if there's certain plants like carrots, for instance, that if you grow them too close together, they really can expand and grow, and so you're going to want to thin out the ones that aren't doing as well, so that it gives the ones that are doing well a chance to really maximize. You've got your garden hints, how much to water it, etc. And then these are the zones that we talked about. And I'm in zone 6B, so I plant things that are either in 6B or a lower number, because anything higher I may not have a long enough growing season and it may not be warm enough for. So that's where you'll get that information, but you can also get it online.